First of all, thank you for having me here,
My
Gary.
pleasure. My
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure to be here. Who am I? The first part of my life I spent far away from here, in the Middle East, in Israel, studying, growing, and I moved here to the U.S. about 10 years ago. And most of my life have been around business. I studied engineering, master's in business, and I'm fascinated by business. Why am I fascinated? Because it's a very efficient and effective machine to take any idea you have and create a product or a service out of it. This is fascinating. And not only that businesses have been so successful the last, I would say, 50 to 100 years to generate such a power, I was always very honored to be a part of the high-tech technology, IT industry, and it has provided me a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom and a lot of, I would say, abundance and prosperity because of that.
Yeah.
So that's one part of me.
It's one part of you.
The Natalie Zeituny, the engineer, the businesswoman.
Right.
And there's a big part of me which is very different, which is a woman that is seeking to understand what is this world about. What all those people who are driving on 280 this afternoon when I came here, where are we all rushing to, and where this whole movement of people and humanity and evolution is moving through? I was always fascinated by this. So there's the businesswoman who has to continue, generate and create and produce and perform in the business world. And then there's this other part of me who you actually described beautifully. You said the Natalie Zeituny, the mystic, which is very much trying to understand what's going on behind the surface, what's going on in people's heart, in people's body, in people's spirit, in people's dreams, aspirations. Where is that? How is that coming and expressing itself in the world? Now, this urge to understand the world and to understand evolution came to a point that I couldn't ignore it anymore. I ignored it quite a long time. A few years ago, I had some very existential questions, like, what is this all about? And what is my specific role in this beautiful world that we live in?
A lot of us have those kinds of questions. What is the meaning of all this?
Yeah, what is the meaning of all this?
Yeah.
You know, okay, so you have a house and you have kids and you have to pay your mortgage and you go to work and you can't wait to get home, but what is this all about beyond this machine-like life that we lead? What is it? And a few years ago, I have to tell you, this question couldn't stay quiet. I couldn't stay dormant anymore. I had to go out and find for myself. So I started studying with Ken Wilber about the science of consciousness. What is consciousness? Which I will get into in a few minutes. I started to study about myself, about my body, about my emotions, about what is really important for me. I started practicing meditation and yoga. I started learning Western psychology and Eastern contemplative tradition. So I started really looking at what are people all around the world really, what is their explanation about what's happening in our world, and who are we as humans as a part of this world? And that quest actually led to a tremendous liberation of my spirit, my soul. I started dancing, which is something I adore. I love music. I love dance. I write poetry. I started studying with shamans. Shamans, and again, this is, I know it's 7 o'clock San Jose, but shamans are actually a very unique type of medicine people, tribal medicine people that actually heal people. So they didn't have a healthcare system thousands of years ago. They had shamans. And the shamans, in their ability to heal people and to heal communities, brought a tremendous wisdom to the world and to their community. I went to Bali, I went to Costa Rica, I studied with those shamans to understand what is the wisdom that they have that we don't have right now in our Western civilization in the Silicon Valley, and what is it that is so unique about those wisdom tradition that they brought with them.
Well, sometimes we call it holistic.
Holistic, exactly. And just through studying with those shamans and doing some of the rituals, I started to understand energy. Everybody talks about that everything is energy. You know, Einstein revealed that equation that energy equal mc square. Okay, but what does it mean that everything is energy? And how do you relate to energy? How do you move it through your body? How do you give it to others? How do you influence the community you're in, the organization? So I started learning, I started learning about energy. I started learning about how do I quiet my mind, because in this Western society, we get a lot of reward if our mind is very, very strong. But what happens when our mind is very strong and is very innovative and is always moving, other parts of our body are not really allowed to express their wisdom. Your body has a wisdom. Like sometimes when you see somebody, you're like, something about that person doesn't feel right. You don't really know what it is. It's not your mind talking, it's your body, it's your intuition. All those things, there's a heart wisdom, there's a body wisdom, and then there's a spirit, which I will talk about as we move along. All those things as a part of this holistic understanding of our world, I found to be so critical in our evolution as human and in the evolution of business.
See, this is fascinating to me because what you just described, and thank you for this, you describing it in such good detail, is related to business. I mean, it's kind of like it's a philosophy, but now there's a practical aspect to it. And now you can walk into the boardrooms of Yahoo and have a bunch of the upper echelon executives sit there for hours while you are explaining this particular approach, because it's making sense about how there's a better way of doing business.
Exactly.
So tell us about the better way of doing business.
That's a great point. So what is happening right now, I believe, is that consumers in our community is becoming more aware. Now, what do I mean when I say conscious? Conscious is becoming aware. Aware of what? Aware of your mind, body, spirit, aware of the community you live in, and aware of the environment. Now, what does it mean to be aware? Okay, so you're aware, so what? Once you're aware that we're all interconnected and we're all like a fabric of interconnected entities that is here playing itself out as a part of evolution, once you understand that, you can't consume the way you consume. You can't throw away things the way you do. You can't ignore poverty and war and other calamities that are happening around us, because you understand that whatever is happening over there actually is happening over here. When we take tons and tons of, the United States tend to export tons of equipment that is no longer needed to Asia, to China, to places that can buy it and then disintegrate it. When we do that, what are we really doing? The fact that we're polluting another country's rivers and another community's well-being, how is it impacting us here? So why am I saying all that? The bottom line is we are all interconnected. There's no such thing like my home, my neighborhood, my country. I don't care about what's happening over the fence. We are so interconnected that, as you can see, a couple of days ago, there was a major melting point of a major iceberg. And that iceberg, the reason, once it's melted, it will affect the ocean rates. And if they rise, what happened to San Francisco? What happened to all the cities, Hong Kong, New York City? What happened when the ocean? So what happened very far away impacts our backyard.
Yeah, and what you're saying is also that relating it back to business is that we cannot afford to not be aware.
Correct.
Of these other areas of our life, because we are all connected in this planet.
Exactly.
And to try to segregate only one aspect, the profit aspect, to the exclusion of how we as business can make our environment better.
Perfect.
is doing an injustice.
Injustice.
Is that about right?
That's